She was 14 when she thought she was finally safe. In a quiet Chicago, a licensed therapist believing she was taking her first real step toward healing. He spoke gently, praised her strength, and made her feel uniquely understood. Later, her family would say that betrayal of trust played a role in her death by suicide at 21. Families seeking answers often turn to a therapist sexual abuse lawyer to understand how such trust could be broken. This is not just one story. It reveals how therapist sexual abuse often starts invisibly, through tactics that slowly weaken a person from the inside. Psychological abuse targets identity, confidence, memory, emotions, and perception. When a person no longer trusts their own thoughts or feelings, they become easier to control. In therapy, where vulnerability is encouraged and authority rarely questioned, that imbalance can be dangerous. 1. Love bombing disguised as care. It often begins with excessive praise, attention, and reassurance. The therapist frames it as support, but the goal is attachment. The client feels uniquely understood and emotionally dependent. Once attachment forms, boundaries become easier to cross. 2. Gaslighting that rewrites reality. When discomfort arises, gaslighting follows. The therapist may deny statements, minimize inappropriate behavior, or suggest the client is overreacting. Over time, the victim doubts their memory and judgment. Confusion grows, and the therapist's version of reality replaces the client's own. 3. Emotional manipulation through fear and shame. Fear and guilt are powerful tools. A therapist may imply that speaking up would ruin lives or prove the client is unstable. Shame keeps the victim quiet, fear keeps them compliant. The therapist appears professional while the client feels increasingly broken. 4. Isolation through social restriction. The therapist may subtly discourage outside relationships by suggesting friends or family would not understand. Gradually, the victim becomes isolated. The therapist becomes the main source of validation, making leaving feel impossible. 5. Denying, attacking, and turning the tables. When a victim resists, the abuser may deny wrongdoing, attack credibility, and reverse roles. Trauma responses like anger or mistrust are framed as instability. This manipulation confuses the victim and shapes how others perceive the situation. The consequences are severe. Many victims of therapist sexual abuse experience anxiety, depression, emotional numbness, and post-traumatic stress. These reactions are not flaws, they are injuries caused by prolonged manipulation and betrayal. Therapy ended, the alleged exploitation continued through emotional dependence. Her family believes that betrayal by someone meant to help her worsened her trauma and left her unable to trust future providers. This is not rare. About 4.4% of therapists admit to sexual contact with clients. Most offenders are male. Most victims are women. 1 in 20 victims is a minor. These numbers represent real lives permanently affected. For survivors, understanding options matters. Speaking with a therapist sexual abuse lawyer can help survivors learn their rights and see what accountability may look like. Being believed is often the first step toward regaining control. Legal action is not about revenge. For some survivors, suing a therapist is about naming the harm and reclaiming their voice. A qualified therapist sexual abuse attorney can guide survivors through this process with care and respect. What must be said clearly is this: what happened is not your fault. Confusion and self-doubt are not weakness. They are the predictable result of manipulation. If you or someone you love has been harmed, reaching out to a therapist sexual abuse lawyer can be a step toward clarity, justice, and healing. You are not alone, and with the right support, what was damaged through betrayal can begin to heal. Grab your free case review via the link in description or pinned comment, or visit injurylawyerteam.com.